Hi guys, I'm Garen.
I'm JD.
And this is Investigating Comic Club, where we chronologically read, review, discuss, and rate specific crucial stories of the medium.
Indeed, and we hope that you guys will subscribe, become members of Comic Club yourself, share your opinions of the stories in the comments, and stick around till the end of our discussion for our episodic comic quality poll, as well as after the Misfit Picture Show's logo for some potential bloopers if the episode provides them for us. Mr. Garen, this is Chronological Marvel number 10, Thor First Thunder, by Brian J.L. Glass and Tan Ing Huat.
What?
Real bad. I'm sure I slaughtered those names. I'm unfamiliar with either of them, although the artist, I've seen him do a couple of things. Some cosmic stuff back in the day.
Makes sense.
Silver Surfer.
Makes sense.
Thor was created by...
Burns? I don't know.
Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Damn it, I gotta jump on that every time. These are not trick questions, Garen. These are not trick questions.
I'm not trying to foul you.
That's all it is. I constantly think the world is after me.
Yeah. You gotta stop surrounding yourselves with the wrong people.
You guys are trying to trick me!
But also, one other person scripted the first appearance of Thor, which was in Journey into Mystery, issue 83, 1962. Stan Lee didn't have time to script it, so he asked his brother, Larry Lieber, to script the issue for him. And Stan said he wanted to create somebody stronger than the Hulk, but how do you create somebody stronger than the strongest creature on Earth? So he was like, oh, I'll just make him a god.
Yeah.
So he started, he felt like the Greek gods were fairly well covered, so he wanted to dive into the Norse gods. He thought of them as Vikings and felt like that would be a fun thing to explore. And Jack Kirby actually knew quite a bit about them. So they had a fun time with the character. Mr. Garen?
Yeah.
Thor First Thunder as like a Thor Year One. Just some quick thoughts on it? Any you have?
I liked the art. It was fun once it got going. The goddess, Shakespearean, old and 1800 style talk was a little much for me to really keep going with. But it was still, once certain things came up, I think again for me, some of the hidden stuff that jumped out with different people showing up in later parts of it. Yeah, that stuff, and then also, and then just in a whole when things started coming together. But it was, that's it for me in a nutshell.
I felt like usually in a trade paperback in a series like this, it's usually 6 issues. This one's 5, and I appreciated that about it. It felt like it had a good pace. Donald Blake, immediately on the first page, I think the writer excellently executes you rooting for him. Just with his voiceover, he's like, I always hear what I can't do. And you see him, you don't even see him, but you see his hand holding a cane. And immediately you're like, you can do it. Which is cool. To have somebody who has a disability climbing these mountains. Immediately, he's an underdog. And you root for him. And I think that that's great. He talks about his dad always never thinking he's good enough. It's effortless kind of archetypal storytelling, but we're suckers for it, I think, for the most part. And it's a great way to establish a character really quick and get you to root for him. I'm not the biggest fan of this gentleman's artwork, but whenever it switches to an action scene, I think it's awesome. It's just bombastic. It's got this energy to it. I think when it's just like quiet little scenes, I'm not the biggest fan of his stuff. It's very stylized. I would never say it's bad art. It is just stylized and cool, but different too much for me until the action starts. And it's just crazy love. It's awesome. I agree with you with the dialogue. I'm not a fan of that Thor over-the-top Shakespearean dialogue. Shakespeare I actually really, really enjoy. But it's that type of... Shakespeare is
I didn't know the way to describe the wording of it, but it was that and maybe even the lettering, in it, kind of maybe when it was him talking or when it was a god talking.
Yeah, it's stylized a little different, right?
Yeah, to where it's like more elegant even, but in that elegance with the wording kind of takes you out of it, or doesn't take you out of it, but like, I don't know, it was more, I felt like I was having to think too much. And if I'm going to think at all, it's going to be for Powers of X and Powers of 10 and House of X. So,
yeah, I think it feels slightly impenetrable, and of course he's a god.
Yeah.
That being so, I know several friends, one friend in particular, who adores Thor. And I think that you and I are drawn to characters that we can some way or another relate to. So watching the Donald Blake of this is really enjoyable for me. Reading about Thor, although fun, I can't relate to it, so I'm not going to invest in it as much personally. That's just my stories. How I enjoy entertainment.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree completely, because I was, it wasn't that it was a hard read, it wasn't that, it flowed pretty well. There were moments where I was kind of taken back, where I was like, okay, I can't tell, is Donald Blake Thor? Is Thor Donald Blake? Is this, does he know that he's him? Okay, he's part of him, he's inside of him. Okay, you guys are one. Which that story of Thor, again, movies, guys, movies. So I don't got much to go off of, so I'm like, when I think of, the closest I get to that is when he does slam the hammer and he gets his outfit, he goes from being Thor to his outfit, not a regular man to now this god.
Yeah, Transformers. They made a lot of changes in Thor, the movie. I really enjoyed Thor, the movie. There's a lot of Easter eggs when you go back and read it. I mean, when you go back and rewatch Thor, you'll appreciate those changes. One of the things I liked in this story, I liked the dynamic between Jane, Dr. Blake, and Thor, and her kind of crushing on Thor. Donald Blake being jealous of it. It was a little bit too jealous when he started screaming that I'm the one, a little too much, but the dynamic of everything in here, it's pretty impressive how much was fit in these 5 issues. There was actually some issues that I was like, I might have only written down 1 or 2 words, but because there was so much, it just flowed, and that was just one issue. Everything they fit into there. Yeah, and it didn't feel, it felt bombastic, but it didn't feel overwhelming. But you've got Heimdall on the Rainbow Bridge, stopping him from going into Asgard, and Odin and Loki and the 9 Realms, Ben Urich, who is a reporter. They have mutants. They talk about Sandu, who's a mutant and a telepath. Professor X showing up, Magneto and a little thing. Tony Stark. Reed Richards. There's a lot, and it's only 5 issues, but I appreciated that about it. And I think in that first issue, I like the pacing of Thor is so gung-ho. He's lost, just as we are lost with the readers. We don't really know, what's this thing going on with Donald Blake? Are they different? Are they one? What's going on? You get to an understanding when this character gets to the same understanding. But Thor's carelessness, when he's throwing stuff and attacking the rock creatures, and he almost kills those 2. And then he's annoyed by them. He doesn't even realize that he caused them to almost die. And he goes to save them, but he's more interested in the fight. And that shows why he was banished, not why his father banished him. He didn't think. He didn't think before his actions. His emotions got the best of him. And I like Thor reawakening. Loki reawakens at the same time, and you're introduced to Loki kind of banished but alive, stuck into the undertree of Asgard. It's pretty nasty, and for him to get out of there, go to Earth, find this mutant. It fits so many. I mean, even Radioactive Man. It had villains almost in each issue of the all 5 of them. I think that's pretty cool. Radioactive Man, back in the day, made many, many appearances. I liked with the Radioactive Man, they talk about the superhero arms race. And that's or they allude to Captain America being the first one that wasn't that impressive.
Yeah.
That this one will be really impressive. That the Radioactive Man will, you know.
Oh.
And that actually, with Tony Stark and them talking about the superhero arms race, it made me realize that in our chronological Marvel, I should have put Hulk Gray after Thor. Because then Tony talks about, I need to create something that will combat this, and then he shows up in Hulk.
Oh, that makes sense.
You know, it should have been, that
makes sense.
But I'm happy that happened, because if you guys are reading comics for the first time, Garen's starting to collect comics, there will be times where you read something and you realize after the fact, oh, actually this thing I read over here takes place after this. And when you put it in your box, that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
The next time you read it,
the order
you'll have it in that order.
Yeah.
You know, and it's with thousands and thousands of these books, it's going to be, you know, impossible to always have exactly the correct order.
It's a vast world of almost choose your own adventure.
Yeah. No,
you
it really
know,
is.
because and like you said, by putting your box together, how you feel it. You know, this story should go before this. No, that story should go before. No, I think this one does. You know, you're gonna have that. Some people are on the same page, and some it's like not. You know, like so.
No, you're absolutely correct. There are friends of mine that are collectors that have very specific stories and issues before I have mine in mind.
Yeah.
I'm not right. They're not wrong. It just is. And it's part of that fun. And it's like, you might now go on to collect every single Thor issue.
Yeah.
And then your Marvel universe is from the perspective of Thor.
Yeah.
And it only kind of collides with
it makes
others
sense
with,
why,
you know.
It makes sense why me starting with with Deadpool, going to X-Force, which I would have never even thought of that. But starting that, now I'm reading X-Force, you know, and I'm learning about characters that, you know, Deadpool's not even in there that much, but I'm getting, you know, connected to other characters, you know, or like I got more connected to Cable than I would have, you know. I only knew him from the movie that came out, and even then I was like, well, Cable, whatever, not realizing how it's like, but that's what got me down that road because of Deadpool, or, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yeah, it's fun, and that is part of the fun. Like, I know one of my friends is a massive Spider-Man fan, and what a cool character to have be the POV character of his Marvel Universe collection.
Yeah.
Like, there are huge, massive crossover stories that are like the universe is at stake, and he just has the Spider-Man issues in those. So Spider-Man's, you know, swinging around New York City as the sky's on fire, and he doesn't know what the heck is going on, and you as a reader, if you don't go further into it, don't know what's going on. But for that friend of mine, he loves it. You know, he's just like, oh, that's cool. I like, you know, that just like in life, something happens over here, and you're just like, wow, that's crazy. I'll never know the story behind that. Yeah. He just enjoys it like
that's
that.
Cool. Yeah,
which is
cool
fun. You know, that's a pretty cool thing. I thought the flashback to seeing when Odin did banish Thor, that was a pretty well-timed flashback, and I felt like the grandeur and weight of that moment was really well done. It was executed well. Yeah. I thought it was a good story. Yeah. And I appreciated, speaking of Spidey, that very human moment at the end between Thor and Spidey.
Oh yeah, no, I wrote that down right away. Yeah, like it was perfect Spider-Man response. So like, just like I have no idea what you're talking about. I can't understand you. Like this monologue.
You know, from us reading Spider-Man season 1. Picturing that little Peter Parker and this Thor saying, you know, it was my pleasure, or whatever he says to him, and Spidey's just like, well, oh, thanks. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I did. I wrote that down. I was like, that's the perfect bookend of this storyline. Yeah, again, I read it. It was, just Thor's never been one that I've jumped in on. You know, like I've never, even the movies I have to watch a few times. To really, and again, I think you nailed it on the head as far as it's not relatable for just life in general. I mean, there are relatable moments and relatable thoughts and things, but as far as it's So it's never been one. So even this one, I think, took me a little while to. Once I started reading it, it was a nice read.
Yeah.
But it's that initial like. I think I read the first 2 pages like a few times.
Right.
Over a few days, and then finally sat down and like it was like
Yeah, I do think there are different types of readers. Like I said earlier, that characters are really important, and when you relate to the characters or just enjoy the characters, when you care for the characters, you're drawn in.
Yeah.
But there are other readers, like my friend that I was talking about, plot comes first for him. So for me, it's the characters, for him, it's the plot.
Yeah.
And, there's no right or wrong to that.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what you enjoy.
Yeah.
So he would enjoy different types of storytellers and stories.
That makes sense.
And,
I feel like I'm very much a character based.
Yeah.
Because I love, Deadpool, but then also even Spider-Man.
Right.
When he's when
he's this specific type. That is the type of character that you enjoy.
And like even Wolverine, I've gotten into more of like his personality, which is character. So yeah, that makes sense. And as far as if I was going plot wise, it could be nonsense. But if it's a good character,
Yeah, I agree, and I think that in our companion series, House of X and Powers of 10 by Jonathan Hickman, it is a very, very plot-heavy series.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
But so intriguing, and at its foundation are a group of misfits that are outsiders that are trying to find their way and demanding their way, which we can relate to that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is still, even though it's a very plot-heavy book and it hasn't focused on certain characters more than others yet, there is still that underlying, these guys are the underdogs.
Yeah.
So, what would you give this Thor First Thunder?
Thor First Thunder. I would give it a B. B plus, actually.
Okay.
I just couldn't write the plus in, so that's why.
I would see, again, it's tough because I didn't relate to it very much, but I can on another level. It's a B plus.
Right?
It's a B plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a B plus, even though we didn't.
I'm
glad it's on my bookshelf.
Yeah,
I'm really happy with it.
And it's a great for chronological. It's great for learning about Thor.
Yeah.
But yeah, B plus.
B plus.
What do you guys give it?
Yeah.
Chronological Marvel wants to know, what do you give the comic quality poll over here? A, B, C, D, or F? Let us know, and then comment below.
We are closing into the finale of our Chronological Marvel. We only have a few episodes left, I think. Well, 4 things to read, but I think it's going to be 5 more parts because there's one that's kind of, I think I'm going to break it up because it's a little too intense. But next week's is a good one, pretty fun. Avengers, The Origin, what we've been leading up to in many ways.
What?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys will join us next week for Avengers Origin by Joe Casey from X-Men Children of the Atom.
Yes.
Yeah, he's pretty excellent. And Phil Noto. Join us, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts about it.
To be continued.